I'm at the stage now during the reloading formula development for my 6GT that I've narrowed it down to 3. What I've done is when I first do my development, I'll load 5 rounds of each, shoot it, see how well it does. Once I get a couple good uh, minimum and maximum, I'll load 10, and I got 2 dots on my target. These are 1/2 inch dots. Okay, so I go ahead and now I'm going to shoot 10 rounds. I'm going to go 5, 5, 5, 5, and I'm going to reload and go back through the same 5-step again. Now here's something unique. I got 2 on this side labeled H for Hornady. I use match ammo, and I'm comparing my reloads to shot groups here. This is my consistent. I've been shooting out of the 6GT before I started load development. Here you go. Today we're doing some load development. We've got 5 rounds staggered in various formulas here. We're going to shoot 5 rounds, and we're going to wait a standard amount of time before we shoot the next 5 rounds. Now, I've already put 5 rounds through it. I used Hornady Match, which I know this rifle does well with. So now we're going to continue on with the first formula. This is 37.4 grains of 4350, shooting 107s burgers. So no matter what we're doing, we're always practicing our fundamentals. So what I like to do is I get up here. Okay, we are on a controlled range, so everything is safe. I dry fire. Okay. First round, here we go. I don't change my cheek position. The only thing moves is my reloading hand. Smooth, consistent. Follow through. I don't immediately jerk my finger off the trigger. Last one. And we're good. Bolt to the rear. Drop the magazine. Now we're going to load our next 5 rounds, which will be a different setting or a different formula. One thing I like to do before I load these next 5 rounds is to put this firearm in the shade so that we try to get a consistent heat. I'm going to wait about 5 minutes before I shoot my next round. We'll be back. All right, now we've got our next 5 rounds loaded up. This is a different formula. This is 37.6 grains, okay? I've got my dots labeled, which you'll see later, but I've got my dots labeled down there so that I know which dot is which, okay? So just as last time, I'm going to do some dry fire, focus on trigger pull, focus on not jerking the trigger, okay? I'm going to focus on squeezing the trigger and holding it to the rear. I'm also going to focus on these bottom 3 fingers and thumb. I'm going to make sure that I'm not pushing on the firearm or anything like that, okay? So let's get a couple good dry fires here. Okay, I got to cock my hat sideways so that I can see what's going on here with the sun shining. All right, got my 5 rounds loaded. You're going to notice me take a breath, and when I get down to the bottom, empty all the air out of my lungs, then I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay, here we go. 37.6 grains, 5 rounds. Hold the trigger. I actually pulled that trigger too quick. I was still on the exhale, and I can tell in my shot placement. Much better. Much better. Nice. Should be it. Bolt to the rear. Drop a magazine. We're going to give it 5 more minutes, and we're going to load another formula. We got 5 more rounds loaded now. Okay, we have got 37.8 grains. Okay, we're going to do the same thing that we've done the entire process. In other words, I'm going to dry fire a couple times. I'm going to make sure I work on my trigger pull, my breathing, and take my time. I'm not in a race here. Okay, trying to get the most accurate load I can for this firearm. Okay. All right. Set up. I got my dot labeled 37.8. Trigger place, or trigger pull, breathing, fingers. Let's do it. All right. I'm going to maintain a proper cheek weld. I'm not going to shoot, lift up as soon as I shoot, lift up. Okay. I want everything to be consistent. Round loaded. I'm going to work on trigger squeeze, finger placement, and breath. We're also shooting at a 1/2-inch dot at 100 yards. Five rounds. Drop a mag. We're going to give it 5 minutes and load up our last round, like 5 rounds, sorry, of 38 grains. Now what you're going to see is I've got 5 dots, okay, each labeled the different grains that I'm shooting. And then under that, I've got 5 more dots loaded the same. So we're actually shooting 10 rounds, okay, of each concoction of formula, but I'm going 5 of each, and then I'm going 5 of each again. Let's get the last one load up, give it 5 minutes, let this thing cool, and let's shoot 38 grains. All right, we got our last rounds loaded for this iteration. We are doing 38 grains this time. I'm going to do everything the same, okay? Meaning I'm going to get down here. I got my 38 grain dot, okay? I'm going to do some dry fire. That was sweet. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit. But let's do some shooting. 5 rounds. 38 grains. 100 yards. Half-inch dot. Last one. All right. 38 grains. We are going to go down, take a look, see how we did. I'll walk you guys down. All right. So it's going to be a little bit because we got to walk 100 yards and I'm kind of fat. Some things I do whenever I am doing any type of shooting, okay? There's 3 main focuses that I focus on. My trigger squeeze is always number 1, okay? If you don't have a consistent trigger squeeze, then you're not going to be able to have a consistent trigger squeeze when you're putting rounds down range. Number 2, I work on those extra fingers and thumb to make sure that I'm not putting any cant on the rifle. My rifle is as level as it possibly can be. Lastly, focusing on my breathing, right? You got to have that breath, that breathing control, under control, I should say. Don't try to shoot when your lungs are full because you never really know when you're getting to that full point. Go all the way down, empty your breath, empty the breath, empty the breath, and then pull the trigger. If you get down there to a point where you've emptied and your crosshairs are starting to move, take another breath. There's nothing against taking another breath. Okay? All right. Let me get you turned around here, let you see what we did, and you'll see my target and how I like to operate it. So here's my target, okay? These bottom 2 lines here are what I'm shooting at. So you'll see that I've got them labeled, all right? Different configurations here. So 37.4, I've got my 5 dots, 30, so on and so forth, okay? The 37.4, you'll see I've done this multiple times, has always seemed to operate pretty well, okay? 37.4 done good this time. My 37.6, I can never really get it tight, so I think we're going to kind of mark out the 37.6. Now, this is interesting because what you'll notice is very few times have I done 37.8, okay? For some reason, I've always went 37.6 to 38. I did 37.8 here and here. Our group seemed to be okay. So we may, well, obviously we're going to try that again. 38 grains, okay? This is a unique one. Here, I can tell you exactly what that was. That was trigger pull, so that was me. I've got 4 rounds right here. This circle, I don't know if you can tell it, but is a little bigger. So 38 seemed to do okay. We're going to try another 38, though. I'm not convinced on 38. But this was yesterday. 38 puts me at about 3,000, almost exactly as an average. I've got 5 more dots to shoot. My H, I always have a consistent here. This is Hornady. Hornady Match seems to do pretty well in my rifle, so I always do it. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I keep this target, all right? This goes back a couple weeks, right? So different days, we've got windages in here. When I'm doing load development, I write on my targets to make sure I know exactly what I'm doing. Now we're just going to run through these 5 rounds, okay? I won't bring you through the shooting process, but I'll bring you down to look at the target as we go. Let's do it. All right, we've shot our 5 rounds of each grain makeup here from 37.4 every 2 grains up to 38 grains. We are shooting at a 1/2 inch dot at
100 yards, and we're using 4350 powder. So let's go see how we did. Okay, you're walking up here with me to see the last iteration for the first time. So let's do it. Here we go. All right, so now we're down here for the second iteration. We shot at this bottom row of dots here. Now, you can see the difference. Barrel is heated up here. I did not wait 5 minutes between each round. I'm starting to get a little crunch for time. So, all of these look really good. Obviously, I want to go with the higher powder because I get more feet per second. You know, here we're pushing on average right at 3,000. Here we're about 2970, 29, maybe 2970 here, and about 2990 here. I'm okay with either one of these. 38 stayed consistent. I'm 37.8, stayed consistent. This one has always worked out well, but you can kind of see that's less than a ½ inch. I'll put the measurements on the screen once I get home and actually do some measuring. Now here's something funny. Look at this. See how these are all in a line? That's breathing. As you're shooting and you're taking your breath when you inhale. Okay. Now, here's what's funny about this. This is 38 grains. Look what I did yesterday with 38. This is all trigger squeeze. Okay. Overall, not a bad workout day. One last thing that I always do is I always keep my target, okay? I've got some targets at home that I have written some information on the side. I will actually do the same here. I will write my humidity, my temperature, wind at an approximation. I do have my Kestrel, but I always take my targets with me because this allows me to kind of refer back to blocking the sun. This always allows me to refer back to temperature, to refer back to humidity, to see what the rifle was doing. Now, this is all collecting good data for my firearm to obviously figure out what's going to work best for me. Everything needs to be consistent when you're trying to do this, except for, here we go, except for the grains. Obviously, we're changing grain weights every time we do this. Once I find a grain that I like, then we're going to go for that. But then I'm going to throw another monkey wrench into it because I'm going to change up the bullet type. Okay, I'm going to go to the 107 Bergers. That's what I'm using now. But I'm using the VLD, or very long range bullets. I'm going to change in and add in the hybrids and see what that does. So I don't want to change multiple things at one time. Once I get things worked out, then we're going to get it done. So thanks for joining the range with me. This is a public range, but as you can see, nobody's here, which makes it kind of nice. Guys, be safe on the range. Always wear hearing protection. Don't be stupid. And take a kid hunting. Till next time, peace.